Alright, what up everybody? Welcome to this review video, solving equations test. It says Quadratics test 1, but really this is all about solving equations. We got equations all over the board, so let's do it. So this first one, you got to recognize that this is a factorable equation. What does that mean? We got to go ahead and go off to the side. 20. What numbers multiply up to 20? In this case, we got 1 times 20, we got 2 times 10, we got 4 times 5, and that's it. This one here adds a 21. This one here adds a 12. This one here adds to 9. And of course, adding to 9, that's a 9 right there. We're good to go. We got the 4 and the 5, baby. X plus 4, x plus 5 equals 0. Now we got that zero product property that says we got x plus 4 equal to 0, x plus 5 equal to 0. And therefore x equal to that negative 4 and x equal to that negative 5. Easy peasy. Remember the reason why that's happening. That 4 is coming to the other side of the equation, becoming negative. That's what's going on there. Okay, letter B. This is actually factoring again. This is called difference of two squares. You just got to remember, if this guy is a perfect square and this guy is a perfect square, then what we're doing is making it like this. We got x plus 6 times x minus 6 equals 0. And therefore x plus 6 equals 0. And x minus 6 equals 0. And you know what? I'm not happy with where this screen is right now. So I think I can actually make it bigger. I don't know if I can. Oh no, I can't. It is what it is. Never mind, I'm going crazy. Okay, x equals negative 6 because we're adding negative 6 to both sides, or subtracting 6 on both sides. And here, taking the negative 6, moving over here, got positive 6. Easy enough. Now, please note, just because that one is factoring in difference of squares, technically we could solve that one the other way of making the 36 over there and taking the square root. I won't stop you, but probably best to just keep doing it. Difference of two squares. All right, letter C. Kind of gotta push the paper too far up for the next problem. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Probably just panic, and you know, it's okay. So this one, we need to arrange in the correct order. So we're gonna start with this negative 2x squared. Then we're going to look over here on this side of the equation to see if there's any other x squareds, and there sure is. There's that negative 3x squared, so it's going to become a plus 3x squared on this side of the problem. Then we're going to take that plus 3x right there. That guy's off to the other side, negative 8x. You got the negative 6, and that 8 comes over, minus 8 equals 0. Add those like terms, you get x squared. You could put 1x squared if it makes you happy. I don't really like writing the 1 right there, but your choice. Minus 5x, 3 minus 8 is negative 5. Negative 6 minus 8 is negative 14 equals 0. What factors to 14? We got 1, 4, 1 times 14. We got 2 multiplied by 7, and that's actually it. Because this is a negative and a negative, it means the negative goes on the right-hand side. This guy adds to negative 13. This guy adds to negative 5, and that's what we wanted. So we got x plus 2 times x minus 7 equals 0. So x plus 2 equals 0. X minus 7 equals 0. X equals negative 2. X equals 7, and we're all done. Letter D. So letter D, what you got to notice on this question is there isn't an x squared. Not an x squared. That means we're going back to what we learned all the way back in October. We just got to solve a basic old equation. Add like terms over here first. That's negative 4x plus 10. 5 plus 5 is 10. Negative 4x equals x minus 10. Everything to x to one side, everything without x to the other. So like this guy, that's got to go over yonder. This guy, that's got to go over yonder. We got negative 4x minus x equals negative 10 minus 10. That's negative 5x equals negative 20. Divide both sides by negative 5. And therefore x equals 4. Should have been simple enough. Hope so, because the next one goes a little bit harder. Let's move on over to letter E. Okay, so letter E, x squared equals 75. Got to take the square root of both sides. We get x equals positive square root of 75, and x equals negative square root of 75. And because we had this weird square root usually off to the side of the equation, we're going to go ahead and figure out what to do with the square root of 75. In this case, again, we're remembering dividing it by, we can divide by 4, by 9, by 16, by 25. You have the rest of those written down in your notebook, I sure hope. And anyways, in this case, it's square root of 25 and square root of 3. So that's going to give you 5 square root 3. So the answer is going to be x equals 5 square root 3 and x equals negative 5 square root of 3, and you're done. Nice and quick if you know what you're doing. Same with letter F. Hopefully I don't even need to explain too much because it's exactly the same problem, to be honest. It's the square root of 32. X equals negative square root of 32. Now, if you are being honest with yourself, what you should do is pause the video, try the problem on your own, and see if you can do it. Because if you're able to do it on your own without looking, you're going to be ready for the test. It's just like the one above it. So here's your chance to pause the video. Okay, moving on. We were going to divide, in this case, by 16. We're going to say x is going to be square root of 16 square root of 2 is actually what happens. And therefore, x is going to be 4 square root of 2. Now, you might have used 4 over here. If you did, that's okay, because there might be another way. It would just taken longer to do the problem. I'm going to do it over here for the negative one. You could have done this one for this one too, but you would have gotten the square root of 4 times the square root of 8, which is negative 2 times the square root of 8, but the problem is it keeps going. You know, you're going to have, you know, a negative 2 and then square root of 4 again, and then another square root of 2, and it's just going to keep on moving down the line. So I personally recommend, obviously, the shorter method of dividing by the bigger number. But if you did this, that's okay. If you stopped right here, you'd probably get like 4 out of 5 credit, you know. At least you did something. Okay. Letter G. Okay. Letter G. Oh, what's that little thing? I don't know what it is. I don't like it. All right. Take the square root of both sides. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and write the negative answer here because there's just too much writing on this problem. There is an x equals and a negative over here, but I'm going to leave myself some room because I need room to do this problem. Lots of square roots all over the place. So we're just going to do it. We got the square root of 1,000 on the top, 2 separate fractions. And we're going through and figuring out what we're able to divide by for every single one of these. Whenever you're able to divide by 2 zeros, almost every single time, you can divide by 100. So square root of 100, square root of 10 in this case. 100 times 10. Feel free to use that calculator. And on the bottom, it turns out it's going to be square root of 9 and square root of 6. So that means that x is 10 square root of 10, 3 square root of 6. I'm running out of room, so I'm running up there. That's why I said I was going to run out of room. So I'm going to copy it and try to finish the question here. Oh no! I didn't do my own advice on this question. And I just took myself all this extra time. And I've had all these people write this. Just run across all this off. I'm sorry, guys. Oh, my girlfriend's laughing at me, and you apparently, so...
You're a horrible teacher.
Oh, ouch. So I'm getting roasted over here. I'm done. Quit. Sorry, guys. Good night.
Boo.
All right.
Boo. Get out.
Oh, no. It's espresso depresso time, guys. All right. We're just going to pretend none of this ever happened. We're going to our calculator here. And the first thing we're going to do is reduce this fraction for us. Okay. Okay. So that's what we're doing right there. It goes to 500 over 27. You could also just realize they're two even numbers, Carson. Oh. All right. Anyways, so we're going to rewrite the problem here. And now, if we didn't run out of room last time, we ran out of room this time. That's for sure. All right. So that's what we're dividing by. Holy moly. So all of this is just all nonsense. And this is why you do stuff in pencil instead of pen. All right. And that's x squared equals still. All right, so now x equals square roots of 500 over square root of 27. Kind of skipping a little bit of steps here because, you know, it's the same idea. Square root of 100 times the square root of 5, all divided by square root of 9 times the square root of 3. X is 10 square root of 5 over 3 square root of 3. Whew! All right. The other method, by the way, is just doing 10 over 6 here and realizing that reduces. They both divide by 2, but I'm trying to be consistent here. Okay, okay. We're actually going to get done this time. So, copy. And now we need to rationalize that denominator. So, rationalizing denominator, square root of 3, square root of 3. We got 10 square root of 15 over 9. Do not forget your negative answer. Otherwise, you did all that work for nothing. Oof. Okay, so letter H is super duper simple because you're immediately going to do x is the square root of negative 3525661 and then go no real solution. Does not happen. You can't have it. You could also do a little circle with a slash through it. Can't have square roots of negative numbers. So just don't think, oh man, I have a fraction craziness. Look at that negative sign and be, we're done. Letter I, trick question in some ways. It's so easy. X is square root of 25. X is negative square root of 25. Square root of 5 is 5. Done. Square root of 5 isn't 5. Square root of 25 is 5. I'll learn to speak eventually. I'm still traumatized over missing that last question. So, you know, this is what happens. Going on the back side. Continuing on. Take the square root of both sides of the equation. I feel like we've been doing this all day long and it's just never going to stop. Hopefully it's becoming secondhand nature. And again, if you're being honest with yourself doing these videos, you should be pausing, trying to do it yourself first, seeing if you are able to do it yourself, and then if you can, you just watch it, see if you got it right, and you'll like feel good as you're getting it right. So again, if you want to pause, you know, here's your chance. Moving on, you get the 6. You get that negative 6. And then we got 6 minus 3, x equals 3. And x equals negative 6 minus 3, x equals negative 9. Easy peasy. Keep it moving. Keep it moving. Letter K, don't be tricked. Because a lot of students get happy and they see that negative and they just go no real solution, but that's actually not true. You need to wait till you're in perfect square form until you say something like that. So to start this question, we're just going to copy that part here. And it's negative 16 minus 2. Copying again. And then we need to remember how to get rid of that fraction. So to get rid of that fraction, you want to multiply everything by that denominator there. Whatever that denominator is, multiply everything by it. Just get rid of it. So I'm going to copy it again so we can actually see that step, especially if we're writing all of these questions down into our notebook so that we have a nice, neat little cheat sheet for our test. Hint, hint, hint. Okay. Negative 2 times negative 2 on both sides of the equation. That means that this becomes a plus plus. The 2's cancel. And you get x plus 1 squared equals 36. And see, now I can just take the square roots, just like that last question, actually. We have the 36 again. X plus 1 equals the square root of 36. X plus 1 equals negative square root of 36. X plus 1 equals 6. X equals 6 minus 1 is 5. Not going to show the work. X equals negative 6 minus 1. Ooh, I did it differently that time. Cute. Either way, we get x equals 5 and x equals negative 7. If you need an extra step of work later, let me know. HIJKL. It's not a 1, it's actually an L. Let's do it. So make sure, if you're getting confused with the first step on this question, maybe put a little +3 of this in front for yourself to remind you that there's a +3. Maybe put a little multiplication symbol in here to remind you of your PEMDAS. But please, please do not do 3 minus 1 first. That is not correct. No. Bad. We first have to subtract 3 on both sides. Negative 2, x minus 3 squared equals 13 minus 3. Then we divide both sides by negative 2. And now we see this x minus 3 squared equals negative 5, and we just know, oh yeah, we're doing the square root of negative 5. No real solutions. Empty set. Nothing going on, guys. No answer. Easy problem if that's the case. Moving on to letter M. This guy's kind of like a challenge question, to be honest. And that's okay. We can have challenge questions every now and then. It looks a little bit intimidating, but let's do it. So big thing to notice here is whenever we have a squared there, you don't distribute. In fact, you can't distribute when there's a square. But when there isn't a square, we do want to distribute. So we're going to do that. We're going to go 4x minus 12 because we're just doing arrow. But we are not distributing that. We cannot. No. Chillin'. And then now we need to start moving things to the other side of the equation. So we're going to be taking this 4x here, and it needs to, swim over there. So we got, we're going to do just this guy here. 3x minus 2 squared equals 6 plus 4x. And we're doing minus 4x. And that minus 12 is becoming a plus 12. I'm going to pause. I'm going to re-explain this one more time. So we need this perfect square thing by itself. We want to divide by that 3, but we can't divide by that 3 until it's all alone like this. So we need to move those guys around. So that 4 here, this 4x, is going all the way to this side right there, and it's becoming negative 4. This negative 12 is moving all the way to the other side, and it's becoming positive 12. Now we add like terms. 4x minus 4x, that's nothing. 6 plus 12 is 18. Now we can divide both sides by 3. So 3x minus 2 squared divided by 3 equals 18 divided by 3. 3's cancel, and you get 6 for this guy. So x minus 2 squared equals 6. We are almost done. X minus 2 equals the square root of 6, and x minus 2 equals the negative square root of 6. And therefore x equals 2 plus the square root of 6, and x equals 2 minus the square root of 6. Took long enough, but we got it done. Moving on, back up to letter N. So this one's kind of just thrown in there as a reminder equation. It actually should be a freebie. It's nice and simple. It's a one-step problem. We need to get rid of this 2/3. To get rid of a fraction like this, we multiply by the reciprocal. So we're multiplying by 3 over 2 on both sides of the equation. There are a couple of ways to reduce this. We can reduce it by hand. To reduce it by hand, we want to remember that this is like 8 over 1. And 8 times 3 is 24. 1 times 2 is 2. And 24 over 2 is 12. If we don't feel like doing it by hand, that's too much work. We are way too lazy for that. We can just go ahead. Oh man, I don't want to see that number. I don't want to see that 1,000 over 54. It's still traumatizing me. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and do the whole problem in our calculator. 8 times alpha y equals enter 3 over 2. And see, it gives us that 12 as well. So we can just do it this way if we don't feel like doing any of the work by hand. Another way of doing it is doing our cross-canceling, by the way. You could have also done 8 becomes a 4, that becomes a 1. 4 times 3 is 12, divided by 1. Your choice. Alright, so letter O here. Letter O, students mess up their negative signs. That's just what it comes down to. We don't want negative x. Negative x is a no-no. So whenever you have a negative x, you're going to want to go ahead and yeet it to the other side of the equation. Now you want to take this guy and swing it back around. So we got 5 plus 5 equals x, 10 equals x. Alternative method to solving this question, just so you can see it. That's method number 1. Method number 2, subtracting 5 on both sides. So we have negative x equals negative 5 minus 5, and therefore negative x equals negative 10. And now you switch the signs for everything. We went over this the other day in class, but you'd have x equals 10 again if you switch the signs for everything. Same things, same answer, no difference. Letter P. Fractions galore. I just love fractions. I bet you guys too love fractions. I bet you just like look forward to seeing fractions every day. That's all you think about. Just fractions, fractions. That's all I think about. Oh my gosh, there's like a little tiny bug. I'm gonna be freaking out over here for the next 10 minutes. That's my karma for talking about fractions. I get what's coming to me. 8 over 75 there. We square rooted both sides. Again, there's this negative side over here, but I'm not going to deal with that right now. I don't feel like dealing with it, so I'm not going to deal with it. I'm going to wait for later to deal with it. Instead, we're going to rewrite this as the square root of 8 over the square root of 75, and we're going to be reducing this like we've been reducing it all day long. Square root of 8, that is square root of 4. Square root of 2. Square root of 75 is square root of 25. And square root of 5. Oh, square root of 3, I mean. Oof, that's a 3. Oh boy. And you get 2 square root of 2. You get 5 square root of 3. We need to go ahead and multiply the top and the bottom there by the square root of 3 over the square root of 3. That is called rationalizing denominator. As a reminder, whatever that guy is, every single time, you're going to be multiplying top and bottom by it right away. So you finally get x minus 1 over 3 equals 2 square root of 6, because that's 2 times 3 there, divided by 15. That's the 15 right there. Finally add the 1/3 to both sides. Plus 2 square root of 6 over 15. Don't forget we did this whole thing. We forgot the minus sign in front of it. If you don't remember that, you'll lose half the points, so don't do that to yourself. Right. We are finally on the last question here. Boom. Moving on to that last problem. We want to take that square root of both sides. X minus 3 equals the square root of 20. And if you want to, you could do it again over here just to remind yourself of that negative sign. We actually have room on this problem. But the square root of 20 is the same thing as the square root of 4, square root of 5. X minus 3 equals 2 square root of 5. X equals 3 plus 2 rad 5. And over here, x is going to be equal to 3 minus 2 rad 5. We are all done, guys. Good luck on this test coming up. Hopefully this was helpful. Have a good one.